Yeah. Yeah, there are two reasons mainly. One, yeah, I grew up in not a very good neighborhood in Italy.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so as a teenager, I often spent time with the wrong people when I was a kid.
Mm.
And but I was lucky to have an amazing family, amazing parents, and also I had a community.
Mm.
So they helped me grow up with values and structure. Um, when I was in El Salvador, I noticed because I went there first, like just I was hired to make a promo video for a nonprofit organization.
Mm.
So once I was there, I noticed how culturally Salvador is similar to my own home country.
Mm.
However, I noticed immediately that that kind of like structure that I found in Italy through our community and family is kind of lacking there due to there's an abundance of broken families there,
Mm.
upset mainly absent fathers because of the economy.
Mm.
And so, like a lot of fathers, also it's a cultural thing too. A lot of fathers, a lot of men they don't want to be fathers. Other men try, in order to save their own family, they come to the U.S., but then some they might get, unfortunately killed at the borders, or who knows what happens to them. And so they never come back. They never bring the money back, to help the family. So these women, they're just alone trying to make ends meet and their children, are completely vulnerable and they're in search of a surrogate family. And
Mm.
here comes the gangs, because the gangs there they hire, they get these kids, they're really young, some of them, even 12 years old, 11, 13, and they act as a surrogate family to those kids. So for kids, it's not only just easy money, but also it's like, oh, I belong somewhere, I'm just part of this family, the family that they never had. So that was the main reason why I wanted to make this documentary really, really badly, because I found that actually those organizations, like mainly I talk about El Sistema, but also I talk about other things in the documentary. They work as a surrogate family for those kids. They basically take those kids and they teach them like structure, and they work as a family there. It's not just about the music. It's mostly about structure. And of course, and those kids are busy learning an instrument, or learning how to fix an instrument, how to play an instrument, how to teach music, you
Mm.
know. And yeah, the other reason is like a little bit like less important is because I music has always been my first love, and I was very interested that these people teach like classical music, it's classical music education to kids, because kids don't know anything about classical music, and when they know it, they just don't really care about it. They don't like it.
Mm.
So I was like, that is really strange.
Mm.
And I wanted to see my because I work as a filmmaker. I do research. I mean, for me, is a way of research to make movies. When I don't know something, I want to know something, I just make a documentary or I make a movie. I used to play. Yeah, my father is a musician, so I grew
Oh,
up
really?
playing. I grew up
Oh.
playing music. Then, unfortunately, I stopped many years ago. But
Mm.
now I'm coming back to play guitar just for fun a little bit. I used to play mainly classical guitar.
Mm. Do you play in New York or not daily?
In New York, yeah, I just started last year, like to
Oh, okay.
play just a little bit because I stopped playing for 20 years.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, it's kind of rough a little
It's just
bit.
it's a
Yeah,
little bit rusty, so you have to pick up a little bit. I see.
yeah, yeah. Yes, mainly, yeah, the documentary talks about mainly a Sistema that is in this case, is a prevention program because also there is a part in the documentary where I talk about, what happens when those kids actually are in prison because there are a lot of kids that made a mistake, they are in prison, but they're still kids. So, uh, but in case of a Sistema, there is a prevention program. It
Right.
works on like just taking those kids like, off the streets like before they get involved into gang members in gang violence and everything and it's a just partially funded by the government,
Mm-hmm.
just very little,
Very
uh
little. So
very
much.
little, not much,
Right.
mostly it's funded by international organizations like local
Right.
organizations like private and of course they give completely free music education. Everything is free
Right.
there. They have their own instruments too. They can give it to the kids so they can play because they're very expensive. So that's the first thing. The other thing is like it works like using internal teachers from El Salvador. But since, they don't have a lot of like history about classical music and everything, so every year they involve like volunteers from everywhere in the world, from the US, from Europe, from Asia, everywhere in the world, like very good professional musicians. They go there, they spend, maybe their summer there whenever they can, and they not only teach the kids, but they also teach the teachers, the Salvadorian teachers there, how to improve their technique, how to teach better to the kids. And also they teach them how to repair their own instrument. That is very important because they're extremely expensive instruments. And the parts also, their parts are very expensive. So so that how basically it works. There's a center that is in San Salvador, but then they expanded, kind of everywhere in El Salvador. There are other schools like that belong to El Sistema.
Mm.
Um, and this basically is beneficial to also to the economy. Not only, those kids have structure and, they grow up like, with structure. Some they become, even professional musicians.
Right.
But
Right.
also it's beneficial for the economy because like, it reduced really, it's statistically proven that it reduced like violence, it reduced, yeah, totally violence among the youth. And then also, reduce like money spent from the government, uh, in that is saved due to incarceration because there is less incarceration.
Mm.
Unfortunately, yeah, but this is another story. But unfortunately, the actual government doesn't understand that keep using violence against violence. Uh, but this is another story. Yes, that's unfortunately that's always a problem, like in the center kind of countries where like gangs are rampant. Also there is a lot of corruption. Sometimes, but not only there, like in other countries,
Right. Right.
unfortunately,
Right.
there is a problem with corruption with the police. And so yes, that's the other problem because you go to ask for help and maybe the situation got even worse. Like, um, yeah, I remember like, in fact, I remember when I went there, there was this problem because like it was really hard to make this documentary. I have to be honest. This is a passion project that I
Yeah.
wanted to do it for the kids, but it was really hard because I didn't. They were really really extremely nice with me in the school, and they were really protective of me, because some areas, if you're filming, they're really dangerous,
Right.
so they even give me like a private guard, not a police, like a private guard hired by them.
Really? Wow.
In some moments that because I need to get some B-roll, I need to follow some people, and at the end there was the compromise.
Mm.
They give me this guard for 1 or 2 days, and I was getting some B-roll, some footage, but I had this guy with big shotgun behind me, and I was like, I think I kind of attract more attention like this.
That's
I
great.
didn't I'm from Italy, so I don't really see guns like often at
Right,
all.
right,
Actually, I don't see them.
right.
But also because of that situation, you cannot trust anybody. And unfortunately, also I realized that because also another Spanish documentarian, I don't remember his name right now, Christian. Christian Poveda was a Spanish documentarian. He did a documentary about gangs in El Salvador. And while he was finishing to film it in 2009, he got actually killed.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really sad. But his documentary was specifically about gangs. My documentary is more
Oh,
about, free music education. Of course, I mentioned gangs, but it's more like that. But still, they were really worried and they wanted to take care of me and everything. But on the other hand, was very, very difficult for this reason. Because I assume, but that's my personal opinion. I assume also because you cannot trust like, uh the police, completely, you know. I think what I learned from that, I learned a lot from like interviewing the kids. Uh I have a lot of footage about that, but I just put like, just little bits and parts when they talk about, their family and their future and everything. Those kids, I learned that, we always complain about a lot of things like that completely unimportant. Uh, and and I see those kids, they are nothing. Literally, some of them, they are nothing. And they have this joy to live and they
right.
create this community within that, and they spend, I saw some of those kids very little. They spend like hours there like playing without complaining, you know and when they know, they might take the bus and go home, and they have like, their instrument stolen. That's the reason why also some they keep their instrument there instead of just like taking that home, their instrument, because they might get stolen, they just leave it at the school and they spend more time at the school practicing. I think that's the thing that I learned the most. Absolutely. Yes,
Mm.
even I, like everybody, we complain about like everyday's life and because probably, I don't know, so speaking about myself, I was so lucky, I grew up in Rome. It's an amazing city, and I never had problem like, big problems. Even if, yeah, I had, when I was a teenager, I have little problems. They were not, not crazy problems, I always had food, I always had clothes, I always had everything I needed, in the end.
Mm.
Uh, but I think as I don't know, as it's the way our culture is, or the way some of our brain works. I don't know. I feel like we kind of like always want more, and if we don't go through struggle, uh I feel if you don't experience struggle, I feel like paradoxically we complain more about the problems that we have in life. If you go through struggle, I feel you grow up more humble.
Yeah, that's so true.
more if you of course if you have somebody who follows you
Mm,
and it gives you structure, otherwise you just a lost child,
mm,
and you might get into gangs or like violence and everything.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to show that is really important because also we were talking about violence, poverty, because our neighbors are dangerous. But also there's this other side of El Salvador that there are some areas, like, tourists can really go there. We can really go there. It's super safe and, it's amazing.
Right.
And people are super nice. People are extremely nice. It's just like, when you go, they know where to go. So if, when I was with them, I knew, they would tell me where to go, where to not go. They would drive me in certain areas, and those places, like, I wanted really to show, uh, that, because that's really important. Even if the documentary is not about the beauty of El Salvador, but, it's really important to know the other side of it. And I say, why not using, getting some drone footage to really show, how beautiful it is. And
I see.
yes, one of the characters, like in the documentary, Renato, he runs another music program, a smaller one, a music school called Preludio, because he works also on in another program in a detention facility where he helps like teenage girls, like you were saying, to learn, if they want, of course, in prison, to learn like, classical music, to learn an instrument so they can have an orchestra.
Right.
And surprisingly, it was really successful. So he thought like, why don't I use my own school, Preludio, once they get out, if they, of course, if they want to keep, learning or developing their music knowledge, why don't I use them, in my school so they can come to my school and keep learning, and maybe, some of them, if they want, they can become teachers also. So they have a job. They have a job and they can teach other kids, you know, how to play like music. So that's, in order to put these girls like back to life, because like unfortunately we all were talking and say, yeah, after prison you can go back to life and you can get a job. No, it's not like this, because these people are marked for life,
Mm,
uh
right.
unfortunately, because at 14 you made a mistake. You're 14, you're a kid. You're 13, 12, you're a kid. You spend 2, 3, 4 years in prison. You get out when you're 16. You have gang tattoos on your body.
Right.
First of all, so you're marked even physically, but also you spend 4 years in prison. People don't want to hire you.
Right.
That's the truth, unfortunately. And I saw those, I met, like a few of them. We can see one of them in the documentary, one or two, but I met a few that I talked with them. They just went, they just got out of prison, you know, and they were like the sweetest women, the sweetest girls ever. They were like super nice, they were not criminals, you know. But unfortunately it happened because some they get involved in a gang, some because they usually arrest the ones that are more naive, not the clever ones, not the experienced one, you
Right.
know. That's what happens most of the time. So that's a way through Preludio, to actually, so for them to keep learning, because otherwise they would just learn the instrument in prison, but once they get out, they can't afford to go to a school. Also,
Right.
they don't have a music school, they don't have the money, you know. So that way, I think it's a really good way to, put them back, help them to go back, get back to society. I would like, especially in those like really scary times, I would like to, it's I don't know, this is a little documentary that, um but I want to, it gives a positive message. It shows that it really, this is not rhetoric, this is reality with statistics. I researched this for years, and it's proven that a way like this saves life, saves money to the government. It creates stability in a country. It really does. And not only like poor countries or like, even like even in Europe, in countries like, we do have like some free music education in some countries in Europe, or not everywhere. But I feel the world is moving like the opposite direction. But even in the US, this works so much, in the community, they are more like, poor, or like in some neighborhoods that are less like, less wealthy. And absolutely. So I would like, the audience to look at this for what it is, but also, I would like to, teacher to look at it. I would like, also like music communities to look at it, because it would be great if somebody, would just start kind of like similar things to El Sistema, in other countries, in other states in the US. I know that is like they just like 2 years ago, I think, they kind of started. It's very small. They started like a sort of El Sistema, like here in the US. I think it's in Texas.
Mm.
Um, so something is starting a little bit, but that's what I would like, the audience to take from my documentary.
I see. Well, Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate taking time to speaking with me, and I really enjoyed the film. And good luck with
Thank
your
you.
film too.